Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan לשכל בינה להבחין בין יום ובין לילה. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani betzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani ben chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah
The maftir for this morning can be found on page 695, that being the maftir for Rosh Chodesh.
Baruch et Adonai mevarach. Baruch Adonai mevarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Uveyom haShabbat shnei chasim b'nei shana temimim u'shnei esronim. Solet micha belula b'shemen v'niska olat Shabbat v'Shabbato olat hatamid v'niska uverashei chodshechem takrivu olah l'Adonai parim b'nei bakar shnayim ve'ayil echad kevasim b'nei shana shiva temimim u'shlosha esronim. Solet mincha belula b'shemen lapar ha'echad u'shnei esronim. Solet mincha belula b'shemen la'ayil ha'echad u'seir v'saran yisaron. Solet mincha belula b'shemen la'keves ha'echad ola re'ach nichoach isha l'Adonai v'niskehem. Chatziahin yeh lapar ushlishit hahin lail ravit hahin lakeves yain zoto lachodesh bechodsho lechodshei hashana useir izim echad lachatat l'Adonai alulat hatamid yaseh v'niska. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olah nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Please rise for the lifting and tying of the second Sefer Torah. Zot HaTorah asher sam Moshe b'fnei Yad Moshe. You may be seated. The Haftarah for this morning can be found on page 944.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar v'nevi'im tovim v'ratzah b'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'Torah u'v'Moshe avdo u'b'Yisrael amo u'v'nevi'ei ha'emet v'atzedek. Ko amar Adonai hashamayim kisi v'haaretz hadom raglai eze vayit asher tivnu li ve'eze makom minuchati v'et kol ele yadi asata vayu כל אלה נאום אדוני, ועל זה אביט. אלוני, ומחי רוח וחרד על דברי. שוחט השור, מכה איש, זובח השה, עורף כלב, מלא מנחה, דם חזיר, מזכיר לבונה, מברך אבן, גם המה, בחרו בדרכיהם, ושיקוציהם נפשם מחפצה, גם אני אבחר בתלוליהם, גירותם אביא להם, יען קראתי ואין עונה, דיברתי ולא שמעו, ויעשו הרע בין עיניי, ובאשר לא חפצתי בחרו. שימו דבר אדוני, החרדים אל דברו, אמרו, אחיכם שונאיכם מנדיכם, למען שמי יכבד אדוני, ונראה בשמחתכם, והם יבושו. כל שעון מאיר, כל מהיכל, כל אדוני משלם גמול לבב. בטרם תחיל ילדה, בטרם יבוא חבל, לביא מילית הזכר. מי שמע כזאת, מי ראה כאלה, היוכל ארץ ביום אחד, אם יוולד גוי פעם אחד, כי חלה גם יודעת ציון את בניה, אני אשביר ולא אוליד, יאמר אדוני, אם אני המוליד, ועצרתי אמר אלוהיך, שמחו את ירושלים, וגילו בה כל אוהביה, שישו איתה משוש כל המתאבלים עליה.
למען תנקו שפתיהם משוד תנחומיה, למען תמוצו והתענגתם מזיז כבודה, כי כה אמר אדוני, הנני נוטה אליה, כנער שלום וכנחל שוטף, כבוד גויים וינקתם, על צד תנשאו ועל ברכיים תשעשעו, כאיש אשר עמו תנחמנו, כן אנוכי אנחמכם, ובירושלים תנוחמו, וראיתם ושש לבכם ועצמותיכם כדשא תפרחנה, ונודע יד אדוני את עבדיו, וזעם את אויביו. כי הנה אדוני באש יבוא, וכסופה מרכבותיו, להשיב בחמה אפו, וגערתו בלהבי אש. כי באש אדוני נשפט, ובחרבו את כל בשר, ורבו חללי אדוני המתקדשים והמתארים אל הגנות. אחר אחת בתווך אוכלי בשר החזיר, והשקץ והעכבר יחדיו יסופו, נאום אדוני ואנוכי, מעשיהם ומחשבותיהם בא לקבץ את כל הגויים והלשונות, ובאו וראו את כבודי, ושמתי בהם אות, ושילחתי מהם פלטים אל הגויים, תרשיש פול ולוד, מושכי קשת תובל ויוון, האם החוקים אשר לא שמעו את שמי ולא ראו את כבודי והגידו את כבודי בגויים, והביאו את כל אחיכם מכל הגויים, מנחה לאדוני בסוסים וברכב ובצבים ובפרדים ובכרכרות על הר קודשי ירושלים, אמר אדוני, כאשר יביאו בני ישראל את המנחה בכלי טהור בית אדוני, וגם מהם אקח לכהנים ללוויים, אמר אדוני, כי כאשר השמיים החדשים והארץ החדשה אשר אני עושה עומדים לפני נאום אדוני, כן יעמוד זרעכם ושמכם, והיה מדי חודש בחודשו ומדי שבת בשבתו יבוא כל בשר להשתחוות לפני, אמר אדוני, ויצאו וראו בפגרי האנשים הפושעים בי, כי תולעתם לא תמות ואישם לא תכבה, והיו דראון לכל בשר, והיה מדי חודש בחודשו ומדי שבת בשבתו יבוא כל בשר להשתחוות לפני, אמר אדוני.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק נאמן. אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודבר אחד מדבריך אחור לא ישוב ריקם, כי אל מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הנאמן בכל דבריו. רחם על ציון כי היא בית חיינו, ולעלובת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני משמח ציון ביבניה. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך, ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך, במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו. על כיסו לא ישב זר, ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו, כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכבה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מגן דוד. על התורה ועל עבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת על הכל. אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
אמן. Ethan has a short Devar Torah for us.
Hi everyone, Shabbat Shalom. Thanks for joining me on my special day. When the pandemic started, I was feeling sad because I missed being around my friends a lot. I thought that if I missed my friends, there are probably other people who miss their friends. So I emailed Rabbi Flanzreich and asked him if he knew people who may want someone to chat with because maybe they were feeling lonely and isolated during the first lockdown. Rabbi introduced me to Estelle and Josh Grader and Jackie and Joel Lowell. Since that day in the spring of 2020, I built a lovely relationship with Estelle and Jackie. Little did I know that I needed people to chat with just as much as they did. I'm so happy that they are here today to celebrate with me and my family. Taking responsibility for the welfare of other people is a commandment that is repeated many times throughout the Torah. Today's parashah spoke about opening our hands and our hearts to others in need, and how if we don't, our cries for help won't be heard. In biblical thought, the heart, not the mind, was considered to be the source of each person's intellectual, moral, and spiritual life. It was the origin that determined one's behavior. Hardening the heart is an indication that one is both unresponsive to reason and incapable of compassion. A hard heart can also indicate arrogance towards people or situations. I am glad that I opened my heart and connected with the Grader and Lowell families. In grade 7 at Leo Beck, we did an interdisciplinary unit on the Shoah. Through Beth Shalom's Bar Mitzvah program, I was twined with Avraham Becker from Poland, who died at the age of 14. Today would have been Avraham's 94th birthday. When my dad was in Israel, he did some research for me and spoke with a relative of Avraham's. He told her that we would be honoring his memory today. Opening your hearts and your mind can be a simple gesture. They don't have to cost a lot of money or be flashy. Kindness isn't optional in Judaism. Reaching out to others is a key part of working to make the world a better place. Being kind is integral, which is what it means to be a Jew. I'd like to say thanks to a few people who made today so special. To Fargana, my amazing bar mitzvah teacher, thank you for the countless hours we spent together getting me ready. I know you're watching on the live stream. To Rabbi Flanzreich and Cantor Moses, thank you also for your guidance and for running a fun bar mitzvah program. And to my mom and dad, I don't have enough words to thank you for everything you do for Jordy and I. Love you so much. And to Jordan, you're the best sister in the world, and I love you so much too. Shabbat Shalom.
Okay, Ethan, don't run away. First of all, I want to note, Effie, we generally don't bar mitzvah people who have children, but we made an exception in your case. There's actually a beautiful syllogism to this moment, of course, where father and bar mitzvah boy share a maftir together. And I think it's found in a curious allusion. The way that the ancient Israelites counted weren't with Roman numerals because there weren't Romans alive way back when. The way that in traditional biblical Hebrew we count is with the Hebrew alphabet. Aleph is 1, Bet is 2, Gimel is 3, so forth and so on. And so in the Talmud, they have a discussion about the significance and meaningfulness of different letters and their corresponding numerology. And in the flow of the discussion, one of the rabbis point out about the significance of the number 13. Now, if you pay attention carefully enough, you'll note that the number 13 is a combination of the letters for 3 and for 10. And the letter 10 is represented by a Yud, and the letter 3 is represented by the letter Gimel. If you're not familiar with the letters, I'll explain it very simply by saying that the letter Yud is the symbol of God's name. And the letter Gimel looks like a human being walking. And the rabbi in the Talmud points out to say that at the age of 13, we hopefully learn how to walk with God. Ethan, on this morning and on the many mornings before this one for sure, through the guidance of your family, joining you into this community, and by what you've displayed also over the past number of years, I think you've shown us well this morning and throughout what has led to this morning, that you're ready to walk with God in all the ways that will bring blessing to your life. And so it is my honor, along with the cantors and the community, to present to you some gifts to mark this moment, only by strength that you will come to remember this moment and all the things that you accomplished and the things that you have yet to do. Mazel tov. Mazel tov. I'm going to ask Ethan, who's already walking back to his parents. He's eager. Go back to your mom and dad, who I'm going to ask to stand. Doran and Effie, if you can kindly stand, and we'll recite the bar mitzvah blessing together. Baruch. There you go. Baruch. Sheptarani. Me'ansho. Shel zeh. Shehechianu. V'kiyamanu. V'higian lazman hazeh. Give a hug and a kiss, Ethan. Amen. Mazal tov, mazal tov. I'd like to ask everyone to kindly stand as we'll recite now a prayer on behalf of the state of Israel and for the women of Israel. And I believe the individual honored with this is Susan Stork. And that is you. There you go. I'll put the page for you once you're done.
Pray for the state of Israel. Our Father in heaven, rock and redeemer of the people of Israel, bless the state of Israel with its promise of redemption. Shield it with your love, spread over it the shelter of your peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Help them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those men and women who bravely defend our holy land. Deliver them, crown their efforts with triumph, bless the land with peace and its inhabitants with lasting joy. And let us say, Amen. Amen. Pray for the women in Israel. Throughout the ages, thou hast blessed us, O Lord, with women who tended the altars of our faith. They have inspired and guided our youth. They have preserved and transmitted thy word. So may it be that they, like Sarah, zealously guide their young, keeping them constant and steadfast in our faith. May our women, like Rachel, be deeply concerned for the children of Israel, wherever they dwell, to learn our traditions, teachings, and laws. May our women, O Lord, inspire in our young a love for the Torah, our true and one way of life. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Everyone, please remain standing. We'll continue at the bottom of page 354.
Adonai midbar kadesh, kol Adonai yechol lelayalot, vaychesof yarot, uvechalo kulo omer kavod. Adonai lamabul yashav, vayeshev Adonai melech leolam. Adonai oznei amo yitein, Adonai evarech et amo v'shalom uvnucho yomar.
Page 360.
Eitz Chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'tom cheha meyushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom. Shivenu Adonai Elecha Venashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem.
You may be seated. Probably one of the first of all, Shabbat Shalom and Mazel Tov, everyone. Probably one of the most well-known, highly regarded, most listened to people in the financial world is an individual named Warren Buffett. I think he's called the Oracle of Omaha. There's a whole story with him being very close friends with a rabbi who lived next door to him. In the early 60s, Warren Buffett is an avid bridge player. The rabbi and his wife was an avid bridge player. The rabbi gave him some money. You can figure out what happened with the money. The rabbi had a very comfortable retirement, apparently. But what's not so well known about Warren Buffett is his second in command, his vice president, is an individual named Charlie Munger. And what's even perhaps less known is that Berkshire Hathaway, their holding company, had not two senior partners, that being Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, but there was a third. The third was an individual by the name of Rick Guerin. You probably never heard of Rick Guerin. You probably will never hear of him again, but I'm going to tell you about Rick Guerin. Rick Guerin, as I said to you, was one of the early partners in Berkshire Hathaway. And by 1970, Rick Guerin was forced out of Berkshire Hathaway. He had to sell his interest in the company, in the holding company, to both Charlie Munger and to Warren Buffett. And why? Warren Buffett, in an interview, once referenced the fact that Rick Guerin was forced to sell his interest to the two of them because with the stock market collapse in the early 1970s, he was overwhelmed with margin calls. What's a margin call? Now, I'm just a simple country rabbi, but I know a little bit about this, and I can say that when you borrow money to buy equities, and then the value of the equities that are securing the line of credit go down, you got to sell things or provide cash to cover the back end of it. So he went to his partners, sold his shares in Berkshire Hathaway, and the rest is history. And why did he have to do this? Because as Berkshire Hathaway's value started increasing, it wasn't becoming rich enough fast enough for him. But he was already a wealthy man. He had made more money by 1972 than he could have probably ever comfortably spent over the course of his life. And yet he got involved in dangerous margin trading to buy more and to earn more. The English playwright Oscar Wilde once famously said that there are only actually two tragedies in human life: getting what you want and not getting what you want. One of the great drivers in our lives, and I make myself no exception to this rule, by the way, are in fact two things. One, humans want to be happy. We love being happy. I'm not going to talk about how often we end up being happy, but the idea of happiness is a huge driver to us. But more important than happiness is success. We want to not only be successful, but more important than being successful, we want to look successful. Because the thought of looking successful will make us feel successful. And so human beings are driven to happiness, but more importantly to success. Believing that what and why is happiness subservient to success? Because we think that if we become successful, I'll be happy. I want to introduce you to the fact that what makes people successful in life is not a homogeneous idea. Not surprising to you that over the course of human history, that is over thousands of years, there have been different ideas about what makes humans or what should be considered to be success in human life. You could probably break these two categories down into a neat kind of section. One is what we would call an ancient concept of success, more like a biblical concept, and then what we would call a Western or a Greek kind of idea. The Western idea that we are so familiar with is the mythology and idea of the self-made person. What does the self-made man talk about? And for the record, of course, this is the foundational myth of the entire Western world, that people who scratch from nothing, they make their way to the top by their wits, by their acumen, by their guile. That I made a decision at this time, in this place, in this way, that made me successful. It is, for the record, why, if you ever wondered, why people who have any kind of success in their life, why they write a book. What's the presumption? The presumption is that people will buy the book because we want to figure out how to be successful like them. And then, I guess if you're lucky, they'll make a movie. And then you'll actually get to see what the book said about what I did to make myself successful. The great American writer F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote his most famous book, which has been made into numerous iterations of movies, called The Great Gatsby, which is the embodiment of the Western idea of success, that I can make myself successful by willing myself to do certain things to that end. The Jewish idea, the biblical idea of success, is radically different. While the Western one is one that is completely centered on me, of what I have done, of who I am, of the decisions that I made. The Jewish idea is different. And it's different, perhaps, exposed with this little question. One of the prayers that are most well known in Judaism, that I suspect in less than an hour is going to be recited. In fact, the only thing standing between me, you, and that is me, is the hamotzi, the blessing recited over the bread. If you pay attention carefully to the blessing over the bread, the hamotzi, what does it say? It says, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. What does it say? That we bless God for bringing bread out of the ground. Now, I don't know about you, but I know that you can't go to a synagogue and pray for bread. Now, the wheat comes from the ground, but the bread does not. In order to make bread, what must one do? You must plant the seeds, and you must water them, and then you must harvest it, and then you have to grind the wheat, and then you make the dough, and then you bake it. So why is it that we bless God for making bread when God does not make bread? We make the bread. God makes the grain, but we make the bread. In ancient Greece, they told a story about how humans came into contact and created or found fire. It's a story of Prometheus. How does Prometheus get fire? Where do humans discover fire from? According to the legend of Prometheus, Prometheus goes and steals fire from the gods, from Zeus, and he brings it down to earth. And that's how, according to this Greek myth, that humans got fire. But there's a Jewish story about how humans got fire, which is radically different from the Greek story. In the foundational story about how humans discovered fire, the ancient rabbis told this story. That on the first night that Adam was created, as the sun was setting, Adam, the first human being, was overcome with fear. It was dark and it was cold, and he was very alone, and he began to tremble. And so God, in seeing Adam alone and fearful and trembling, brings 2 stones down to Adam, and he tells Adam to rub them together. which Adam does. And it creates a spark. And then it makes a fire. And when the fire caught, Adam looked at it and said, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei ha'esh. Blessed are you, O King of the universe, who creates fire. Why did Adam thank God for creating fire when Adam was the one who made the fire? And it seems to me that both with the blessing over the bread and the creation of fire, in direct distinction to the story of Prometheus, that what humans in the biblical concept do is that every moment of success in our life, we are filled not with conceit or power, we are filled with gratitude. Gratitude for the tools that we have, gratitude for the life that we have, gratitude for the abilities that we have, for the things that we are able to achieve. Gratitude, rather than filling us with conceit or power or overbearingness, gratitude creates a heightened awareness of humility in a human being, of us being proud of what we've done, but understanding that we all stand on the shoulder of at least one other person that has brought us to where we are. And why do I share this idea with you? Not only because it is a profoundly important human lesson to learn, that at the height of your greatest moments of success, to eschew the sense or conceit of power that you think you may have, because don't forget that as numerous the stories there are of people who have become successful, there are at least as equal many number of stories of people who became successful who ended up destroying their own lives because of their success. But the reason why I share this is because on this morning in the Torah portion, as the Israelites are in the penultimate moment of their success, they have exited out of Egypt. They survived 40 years of wandering in the desert. They are now at the border of entering into the land of Israel. They are at the moment on the perch, on the edge of their great success. What does God say to them? Be careful. Because success has destroyed more people than failure has, in terms of destroying their humanity. And so the warning for the Israelites was that as they are on the edge of breaching into success, for them not to forget what their success is built upon. It is the things that God gives us. This is one of religion's great ideas, that the steps that we take in this life, the things we value and hold on to, that they are the byproduct of the things that are given to us. The great English poet John Locke was right when he said that no man is an island to himself. Do you know why John Locke wrote those words? If you know the end of the poem, perhaps you'll have an allusion to it. Because Locke finished the poem by saying, "Do not ask for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for you." Locke wrote that in the 16th century. And England was in the grip of the plague, and people were dying in the numbers every day. And John Locke had put himself in his home, and he had secluded himself. And every day he woke up and heard the church bells ringing, for whom the bell tolls. And yet he reminded himself that no man is an island to himself. True success in life is not built upon what I have done. In the Jewish version of it, it's what we have done. Shabbat shalom. Please rise, page 368.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבן, ילמד יברך חילותי ויניח מלכותי, בחיי חונד מחול